Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Omega Insight. I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July weekend, extended weekend. I know some of you still might be on your extended weekend right now, and that's fine. I'm not wanting to take you away. Hopefully, whenever you watch this, you'll enjoy it. Tonight's topic is the sense of direction. But before I do that, I completely and totally forgot that we have an Omega 1. I didn't forget that, but I wanted to announce that we have an Omega 1 starting this Friday. We're so excited to get back into the classroom. So it starts this Friday. There are still some seats available. If you know anybody that is interested in attending, go to our website, www.omegavector.theomegavector.org, and you can register from there. Again, we're super excited. It's been a while since we've been in the classroom, and we're really just anxious to get back and get the work going again. So that takes care of that. Now, tonight's topic is the sense of direction. I put a little blurb out there earlier that with the sense of direction, this actually comes off of a Monday night workshop, or a series of Monday night workshops that George did in 2003. It was called the Higher Senses. So here it is. This is what it's called. It's called the Higher Senses. And when he did the Higher Senses, what he did is he discussed the idea that not only do we just have our physical senses, the 5 lower senses, well, he actually called 7, but we have five senses. We're all familiar with the 5 senses, which are the sense of smell, taste, sight, touch, and sound. Those are the 5 senses. And then, of course, he added 2 senses, common sense and intuition. But I'm just going to stick with the 5 senses. We're all familiar with the 5 senses. We all understand the 5 senses. Now, when it comes to the physical world, the 5 senses are all attached to our physical body. And for those of us who have been around Omega, we talk about that there's more to me than just a physical body. So my physical body is actually the lowest aspect of me. If I go through all the other aspects, I have the physical body, then I have my emotional body, there's the mental body, then there's my intuitive body, and then, of course, the higher levels, parts of us, there's the atmic, the monad, and the divine, which I'm not even going to get into that, but we've discussed that before. So there's many different levels to me. Most of us can understand that. We have dreams. You can't touch them, but we experience them, our thinking as well, aspirations. So back to the 5 senses. These 5 senses connect us to the physical realm. It's science. It's all natural. It all takes us down to natural. They all have to do with my physical body. I'm hearing. And if I'm invested in these 5 senses, I listen to music that I find enjoyable. I reach to touch and feel other individuals. Hugging is a big thing. Sex is involved there as well. Sight. I look for places that are pleasing to me. Things that we surround ourselves with are all pleasing to my visual cortex, what makes me feel when I look out and see things. We go to our happy place in our mind. We see the happy place, the things that we see. Taste, of course, involves food. This is stuff that it's a sensual experience, of course, and then smell too, aromas. All of that is attached to my physical body. None of these, please bear in mind, do not hear me say this, that they're wrong. They're not. They are just attached to my physical body. And there are those of us who are fully committed to those 5 senses and living fully the physical world. Not a problem here. What I want to do is talk about the idea of the senses on a spiritual aspect. Eventually, there comes a time, most of us, there comes a time where we want more than what the physical world has to offer us. That's when we step on the path, let's call it a spiritual journey, going within, whatever term you want to use it, but we know that there's more to us than just this physical realm, and we start seeking. Some of us don't start seeking until we're in our 40s. The kids are out of the house and empty nest syndrome, and now what do I do with my life? Some of us were born with it. There's no specific time on whether or not this happens to us. It just occurs. The physical world, the 5 senses, this leads us towards a downward reality, keeps us connected to the lower levels. The higher senses, which is what George talked about, he said there's 7 higher senses. The higher senses lead us to a higher reality, more than just the physical world. That's all it comes down to. It's just more than the physical world. For example, if you are wanting to get involved in your life choices, all of a sudden now you want to become aware and raise your awareness and raise your levels of values and take a hand in your own destiny and work on your healing of your emotions and your mental body, learning to master the different levels, that's leading us towards the higher senses. Now, the sense of direction is the very first sense that's a higher sense, the sense of direction. In the lower world, the sense of direction, obviously, that connects us to forwards, backwards, left, right, up, and down. Those are the 7 senses that we have here. The 5 senses, the compasses that we have. It's forwards and backwards, left and right, up and down, 6. There's 6 of them. When it comes to the sense of direction on the higher levels, there's actually only 2. We can either have the direction of down or the direction of up. Downward direction takes us involution, we'll call it we evolve into the physical realm. Evolution, evolve up to the spiritual realm. That's really quite simple. Then that's all it leads to, is we have the 2 different senses that we connect with. We either have a sense of direction going upward or sense of direction going downward. Now, the sense of direction is actually deeper, stronger force. It inspires us and directs us. The sense of direction, a lot of people say you can connect it to your purpose. It fuels your purpose. But the idea is the sense of direction is I want to evolve. I want to be a better person. And then we discover different purposes that help us be that better individual. But the sense of direction is the foundation of the desire to evolve, to have more than what I have in my life here. A lot of people talk about this. Hollywood is famous for this. How many movies where rich people end up realizing that all the wealth in the world really doesn't satisfy them, that there's more to it. So the sense of direction, it's like a spiritual force, like a universal law. And many people, for example, if you're creative, if you create without the sense of direction, the idea of without, you're just creating, like making bread because you have to make bread, versus making bread because you love the idea of making bread and you know you're going to feed somebody and it's going to make somebody happy. Or those of us who've ever made gifts for individuals, this is a really good one. For those of us who are crafters and we make our own gifts, we're putting part of our love and our life into that item. And when we present that item or give that item, that is felt, like somebody recognizes, oh, wow, you went out of your way to do that, knowing that's the color that they like or the sound of music that they listen to or their favorite entree of food. When we have that, it almost amplifies the gift. And it touches us beyond our 5 senses, if I can use that as an example. If you've ever received something and there was a great deal of intention and purpose put into the gift, you feel it more than just the 5 senses of seeing, hearing, taste, sound, even including the 2 senses that George threw in, common sense and intuition, but you feel something else, and it moves us. It gives us the connection. It takes us one step closer to an individual and has that connectivity to us when we have that sense of direction put into the products that we're working on. I think that's the best way I can describe it, is that we put it together. When we have a sense of direction, we're putting it together with intention. And I know I don't want to stay on the word intention, but that's what it comes down to, is that it's something higher than just the 5 senses. Khalil Gibran, there's a quote by Khalil Gibran. He said that bread that is baked without love satisfies only the hunger. And I love that idea, that when I bake bread with love or with the intention of wanting to feed, it has a better flavor. I know I'm probably botching this up, but I know you understand this. So to have a sense of direction is similar to having a plan. And when we follow it, we get connected to the energies that are available to us. Um, Again, it's the idea that I want to evolve, that I'm looking to, and the things that I'm doing are wanting to evolve. It's not about physical success. It's not about money. It's not about stature. It's not about titles. It's about becoming a better individual. It's about evolving myself so that I rise above my lower senses. I rise above needs and desires, and I often go with compassion, but I can find gratitude in everything. I can find peace in everything. Like I rise above the lower senses, and I'm now connected to something where evolution becomes my goal. Um, there's techniques that we can do, of course, meditating. I've always talked about meditating. And the idea here, to me, I think the idea is that inner sense of knowing inside, internally. So this is where intuition kicks in. Intuition can lead us towards our higher senses. And so I wanted to just share a quick little story. I watched the Garth Brooks, The Road I'm On. I recently watched that. It's 2 parts. And, Garth Brooks is a phenomenal musician and entertainer. And within 1 year, he went from playing clubs to coliseums. And so this was a really good documentary to show him and how he progressed and broke all kinds of records and so on and so forth. But the thing that he's the most famous for is when he was at the top of his game, the top of his game, where they would sell out instantly. How fast they would sell out for coliseums, or that they went to New York City. If you've ever seen that, they opened up Central Park. HBO did a special. They opened up Central Park. They had close to 1 million people. He performed in front of them, never heard of before, but at one time performed in front of 1 million people. So this man, there's something about him. And throughout the documentary, people would call it the it factor or the Garth factor, because there is something about Garth that could connect to people, whether it was somebody right in the center, right in front row, or all the way in the back. He connected with his audience. And so that factor, that's the idea that I want to focus on, is that he was doing it because he loved the music. It wasn't so much about the success and how much money they were making, but he loved his music, and he loved getting out there and performing. It was his life, and he did this for almost a decade, a little bit over a decade. And then in early 2000, he retired. I remember watching him when he did this. When he retired for one reason and one reason alone. He wanted to raise his children. Now that has nothing to do with success and the lower levels, nothing. That was an inner voice calling to him. He recognized that he wanted to be a dad, and he was missing out on his children's lives. He shared this short little story how he said that he had his kids with him backstage, and his daughter was talking, and she said, instead of saying both, she said both, like an English person, like both. And he's like, who says both? We say both. And the nannies are the way that they talked. And he realized his children were being raised by nannies and not by him. And he said, that's it. So he walked away from something he loved because he found something greater, his children. And being a dad was more important to him than doing his music. He followed an inner sense of direction. His sense of direction called for him to be more than what he was. And, if you would have stopped before he made that decision, how could Garth Brooks be more than what he was? He's breaking records left and right. He shattered and changed the country genre. How could he do more? Well, he went inner, and he had a higher way of being. And he decided the best thing for his life would be to raise his children. And he did. He walked away for 14 years. 14 years. He just said, that's it. He showed up every once in a while, but he did 14 years so that he had this sense of direction for something higher for him, because that to him was most important. That's his inner compass. His inner compass said to him his children were more important than all this success and even doing something that he loved, which was music. He still could do music with his children, obviously, he recognizes that. But to me, when I watched this unfold and knowing that I was going to do this topic tonight, it clicked in my mind thinking, how many times have we had those moments in our lives where we realize the path we're on, even though it's wonderful, there could be something more. And the idea is to stop and look. And what is it in my life that has been sacrificing, or what is it in my life that's missing that I haven't put any attention to? That's a sense of direction. To be able to go inside and look for an evolution decision. How do I make my life be useful? We used to say in the classroom, are you satisfied to be just another set of footprints on the planet? Seriously. Of the hundreds of thousands of footprints that have crossed this planet, there has never been and nor ever will be another you. And are you satisfied just to be that set of footprints? Or is there something you want to do with your life? Do you feel that desire, that sense of direction for evolution to make a contribution with your life? Only you can determine that. Only you can find that. Garth Brooks' decision probably wouldn't have been as impactful in his life had somebody else told him to do that. But because it resonated from within him, it made an impact. This is my assumption. Of course, it's just my assumption. But to me, that's the important part. That's what the sense of direction means. How do we make it so that my life is more than just another set of footprints on the planet? So thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed discussing that. Again, super excited about doing our Omega 1 on the 9th. That's this Friday. And I will be sending out an email to remind us about graduation. For those of you who are interested, please, please, if you're an Omega grad, come down and help us celebrate the graduation on Sunday. Again, thank you for joining me. I look forward to talking to you on Friday when we do our coffee talk. All right. Bye now.